Hello, Kansas City, and welcome to the next installment of Climate Conversations, a production of Climate Action KC in coordination with the Mid-America Regional Council. I'm Mike Kelly, and I'm here today with Chuck Casely of Evergy. Chuck, thank you very much for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
As you know, we are in Energy and Industry Week in the Climate Action Planning collaboration process. And Chuck, you're an expert, Senior Vice President of Marketing and Public Affairs for Evergy, who's been instrumental in reducing emissions in Kansas City by doing quite a few things. Chuck, do you mind introducing us to Evergy's sustainability efforts as our electric utility?
Absolutely. Again, I'm the Chief Customer Officer for Evergy, which means anything that touches customers, which are a lot of our energy and climate programs, fall into my area, whether it's energy efficiency or electric vehicles are some of my favorite. From our perspective, we had a journey that started about 15 years ago to really address this issue. And I'm happy to tell you as of today that 50% of the electricity that our customers in Missouri and Kansas get comes from carbon-free sources. That is a dramatic drop in just 15 years. And to put some additional numbers around that, that's 2,200 megawatts of fossil fuel generation retired, and more than 4,500 megawatts of wind power and other renewable sources brought online. We actually have the third or fourth largest wind portfolio in the United States. It's something we're proud of. We've got a long way to go, though. And so whether it's energy efficiency, really promoting electric vehicles, or working on the most aggressive decarbonization plan we could possibly have, those are all things that are foremost on our mind.
Chuck, we know that climate change is having a disproportionate effect on the most vulnerable in society, including those that are least affluent. Can you tell me, given the pandemic that we're in, some of the things that Evergy has considered when keeping those vulnerable populations in mind for the pandemic and then for climate resilience?
Sure. Well, I mean, the first and most important thing is people need energy to live and to do what they're doing, particularly if they're going to be at home during these tough times. And so we were one of the first utilities in the United States to announce a moratorium on disconnections. And we also waived all late fees. That's still in effect, and it'll be in effect till July 15th. We're also making sure that people have plenty of time to pay. So residential customers can have up to 12 months, and we're being super flexible with businesses as well. And so, we've already made some announcements, several $1 million of contributions to home energy assistance, and also things that would help small businesses. But I think you can expect that there will be additional programs announced in the near future too.
So being the electrical utility, Evergy has its hand in multiple pieces of the sectors of emissions that we have in our climate action plan emissions inventory. One of the largest is building energy. Can you tell me a little bit about what Evergy is doing as it relates to reducing emissions from buildings?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, our energy efficiency programs. And in Missouri, we have a very robust set of energy efficiency programs that people that can get rebates and incentives to make their buildings more efficient. Unfortunately, we don't have that in Kansas, although we're working with the governor and the legislature to try and pass some legislation that would allow that. I think the other thing, though, is building efficiency and building operation are sometimes some of the last things that folks think about. And so when it's building or retrofitting a building, oftentimes it's just the first cost, the cost of building it that people think about. They don't think about the ongoing environmental and operational cost. And we like to work with folks to bring some clarity around that. The other thing is we have workshops for folks who aren't doing renovations or buildings or building something just so they can learn how to operate their building more efficiently. There are very cost-effective ways, very cheap ways, frankly, to be able to run your building or your business more efficiently. And those are all things, whether it's electricity or other natural resources, we would seek to help folks with.
And now to flip the script and talk about the largest sector of emissions we have in the Kansas City region, on-road transportation. Tell me about the Clean Charge Network and what your vision is as it relates to reducing emissions from transportation.
Well, I got to tell you, one of the things that I'm most proud about from my time at Evergy is our Clean Charge Network. It is today still the largest investor-owned utility charging station network in the United States. We've got more than 2,200 charging ports out in the Kansas City metropolitan area on both the Kansas and the Missouri side. And since that was started to be installed at the end of 2015, we've become one of the best places in the country really to own an electric vehicle. Look, we don't want a monopoly on charging station locations. What we want is people to understand that for 95% of the use cases out there for a vehicle, whether it's delivery, whether it is a personal vehicle, electric vehicles are emission free. They are more costly to operate, or less costly to operate, excuse me, and they reduce a lot of the emissions, not just carbon, but a lot of other emissions that are so important to regional attainment of EPA goals and things like that. So we are a huge believer in electrified transportation. It's the last sector of the world economy, surface transportation, that isn't electrified. It is a thing that's coming, and we think the region would be better off building infrastructure and educating folks about this right now so that we can get ahead of the curve. It's a competitive advantage.
All right, Chuck, last question. Tell me your vision for a climate resilient Kansas City metro area.
I think the first thing is just awareness. Municipal governments, large companies are doing a really good job putting this on the forefront and really looking at the triple benefit of sustainability, which is cost of operation, reduced emissions into the environment, and the fact that most of the spending that gets done around making buildings and operations and the climate more resilient and sustainable is spent locally. So there's three benefits, and I think municipal governments and large companies really know that and are pursuing that. We'd like to see it get driven down into the population and into smaller businesses and industries. The second thing is we have to play a big role as the energy provider for the region. We've got what I would characterize as a middle of the road decarbonization plan from here on out, 80% below 2005 levels by 2050, but you can expect us to double down on that and to get even more aggressive as time goes forward.
And we look forward to being right there with you. So to anybody who's been inspired by what Chuck has had to say here and wants to share their vision for a climate resilient Kansas City, join us at climateactionkc.mindmixer.com and participate in the online collaboration process as we build that plan for a climate resilient Kansas City. Everybody, please have a good day. And Chuck, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Mike.